Welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Gauthier the ET Whisperer. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Any ideas or opinions expressed by myself, the guest, or a caller may not necessarily reflect the same opinions of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Enlightenment defined. It's the state of giving and receiving greater knowledge and understanding about a certain subject or situation. Evolution defined. The gradual development of something, especially from a simple to a more complex form. So what then is Enlightenment Evolution? The state of giving and receiving greater knowledge as we develop from a simple to a more complex human being, living on Earth for our soul's experience. Welcome now and join us as we explore our Enlightenment Evolution Hour together. Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Rob Gauthier. And the Enlightenment Evolution Hour is part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network and is simulcasted on the Matrix Mind Media. Hello, all of my friends out there. Hello, Matrix Mind people, the minds themselves. Hello, guys. Also, this show is redistributed to Conscious Awakening Network and Forbidden Knowledge News Network. And Forbidden Knowledge News was just banned from YouTube, but they still have very strong platforms across Rockfin, across a lot of different platforms there that hold podcasts, including Apple, including a lot of other places, iHeartMusic, etc. So, as does the Matrix Mind. So they're still everywhere except for YouTube. Welcome, everybody. Today we have an amazing guest. And this guest is Valiant himself, and Valiant is going to be with us tonight. Before we introduce him, before we get into it, we have a few announcements, and I will try to make them quick. For the Enlightenment Evolution Hour, we have some amazing shows coming up. We have, and sorry, I should have pulled up my calendar before, but I know for sure in the next couple of weeks we have a couple amazing guests. And let me see where we're at here today. Okay, so next week we have, I believe maybe Kelly Coffee's next week. You know what? This calendar won't tell me, so forget it. We have Kelly Coffee coming up soon. And we have, oh my word, my mind is blanking. If you go to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour Facebook page, and very soon the Enlightenment Evolution Network and Hour will have the websites back up, you'll be able to see full list of the guests coming up. We do have the Facebook page right now as our only announcement page, so go there and I'll tell you who the guests are as they're coming. But Kelly Coffee, I believe, will be with us next week. And she is an amazing lady, a psychic, a friend, and someone who had over 150,000 subscribers before her YouTube channel got shut down. So we're hanging out with all the naughty kids lately. So it's amazing to see you guys here. I'll announce that as it comes for the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Our announcements do have to do with tonight's guest. Our newest show on the network is Out There Talk with Valiant himself, and that is who we have on tonight. That's his show on Instagram. If you go to at Out There Talk, you can go on Instagram, follow him every Tuesday and Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. You will find that show. I've been on there. Kalina's been there. A few of the people in the audience that are talking right now on chat have been guests there, and a lot more people in our community are guests there. Amazing show. We also have The Mothership, which broadcast every other Thursday, and it's not this Thursday coming up, but next week they will have their 6th episode released. All the information can be found on the Enlightenment Evolution Network Facebook page. And for the ET Whisperer, our announcements are simple. If you're on our email list, you would have already gotten coupons for sessions and a course that we're doing. But we are doing a channeling course as we speak. It launched on the 19th. If you join now, you won't get the early bird discount, but you will get to ask questions between the drops of the video and audio each week, which is really amazing, which means you can get some questions, but there's a lot of techniques that are there, some welcome from Aridif and myself. And every week we'll be answering your questions about channeling. If you guys are interested, go there and check that out. I do want to also thank everybody who's been listening, everybody who's been supporting us from the Matrix Minds, where we simulcast, and from our YouTube channel and our Facebook page for the Enlightenment Evolution. You guys are amazing. But now I want to talk a little bit about our guest. Valiant himself is a member of a band, Valiant Thor, and as the chat has well described, uh, Valiant Thor has a song in Guitar Hero 2, so you may have heard his music and not even know. But this band has been doing a lot of things throughout many years. Really amazing. He's also a schoolmate of Kalina's. That's how I got to know him. Kalina and him went to high school together. Valiant himself, as in his own words, Valiant Thor is from inside the planet Venus. Valiant himself is a left handed Aquarius, a living donor, a singer songwriter, a frontman, poet, master of fine arts in painting, drawing, restaurateur, entrepreneur, host, actor, DJ, delivery driver, bartender, frequent collaborator, multitasker, problem solver, humanitarian, and friend. He originated from North Carolina, where Kalina and him went to school, but now lives in Richmond, Virginia, with his wife and 3 kitty cats. He's toured the world full time for a solid decade, and now is co-owner operator of several themed restaurants, and currently enjoying his 40s. And that is Valiant himself. But I think what's better than me describing him through something that I see is to bring him in himself. So welcome, Valiant. How are you, brother?
Hello, how's it going there?
It's going great. Thank you for coming on tonight. I know you're an extremely busy dude. I know your restaurants and life in general with your music and that takes quite a bit of your time. So I appreciate you making time to be with us tonight. And I definitely want to talk about some of those things and your own show Out There Talk with Valiant himself. Before we do that, I want to ask you one question, and this question is where I always start because I think people may have heard you do interviews. I've seen several interviews that people have done with you before, ranging from various topics. We always know what people's story is. You know, they tell us how they got to be in a band or how they got to own restaurants or how they got to be a left-handed Aquarius. But what we don't often hear is what in your childhood, young adulthood, opened you up to be the person who was open to experiencing your art and your music and all the things that you have interest in now. And unlike many of our guests, you have dozens of things that you have your hands into, whereas most people have one, two, three, four. You're quite around there. So, can you share with us some things from your early life that might have kind of shaped you to be the guy who's open to all these amazing things?
Yeah, I appreciate number one you having me on. I appreciate you and Kalina inviting me into the fold of the Enlightenment Evolution Network and helping me find guests and getting the word out to people. So I want to say hello to everyone in the comments and in the chat, and I hope everyone's doing good tonight. I think it's a great question because it's something I think about. It's not something I talk about a lot. Like as Valiant himself, the reason I picked a name, like, you know, I think there's roundabout ways, but in the beginning there was always going to be some kind of hidden persona, not because it's what people do in rock and roll, like Alice Cooper or Marilyn Manson or all these names that people use as pseudonyms, But mine was because Kalina and I, from where we're from, the town next over to us is called Gastonia, North Carolina, and there was a guy there that was from there called, and this has nothing to do about me becoming who I am, but I'm gonna jump around a little bit if you don't care, because that's
Oh,
just
please do.
that's how my brain is. But that there was from Gastonia, North Carolina, there was a guy named Fred Durst, and he became famous for singing for that band Limp Bizkit. And his family, he moved away obviously, but his family still lived there. And when people found that out, they like egged his parents' house and tore down their fence and just basically treated them like like shit. They treated them like, can I say bad words? Number
Oh, you
one.
could say whatever you'd like.
Okay, sorry. They just treated those people like crazy. Like they were, and I was like, man, if I want to do these things, I want to show the world, but if the world doesn't like what I do, then I don't want them to retaliate against my family. So I just didn't want to use my real name, and and then
Interesting.
there's, and I think maybe that possibly Kalina, I don't know if she can relate to this, but the place that we were from was very backwoods, very redneck, and there's like, and there's something to be said about, there's a neat, like if you're thinking about like a neat 70s redneck, like Atlanta to Texas kind of thing, like Smokey and the Bandit style thing, like that's kind of cool. But I'm talking about like a racist and a deep rooted like hatred and just a, I feel like I don't feel weird at all saying I think that where we're from has a very deep rooted white supremacy in there. And that went away, and it got better over the years, I think. But then, speaking, I'm sure we'll delve into politics, but all that kind of reared its head again in the last few years, and you can kind of see that all over the country where those kind of pockets were always there, and I kind of tricked myself into thinking maybe things had gotten better, and I definitely think they are better than from when we were in high school or even younger. But to answer your question, the things that shaped me and turned me into who I am probably had to do with um, being given a blue ribbon in kindergarten for a little drawing or a painting. I'm not even sure how much of a painting as it was of like coloring a picture. That I did draw it, but it was probably with crayons, not with like, and it might have been painted. I can't exactly remember, but I remember once I got a blue ribbon and like, man, you're the best in the class at this. I was like, okay, people like when you draw or whatever. And then my parents took me to church when I was little, and so they would have you sing in front of the church. And I remember getting these are totally free memories right now. Like I'm not even this isn't a prepared answer, but I remember getting shocked by the microphone and in church in front of everybody and saying something and like ow or something like that, and everybody laughing. And I really liked that. I really liked that attention, or maybe I liked making people. I knew that if you do something maybe with laughter, or if you made people feel good, then they might listen to you. And I grew to respect, and I found significance in people who could command an audience like that, whether it was not necessarily in church or whatever, or in school, or in college, or as like a news anchor who was telling you truth rather than opinions, or a comedian who was telling you truth rather than just trying to make you laugh, like somebody like old school, like George Carlin or whatever that people always say. Um, and so things like those are those are like one for the music and one for the art. And then I think, as far as like the direction maybe that I was pushed in was maybe just from my dad, like in certain things, like he got me into scouts, and I was a Boy Scout and an Eagle Scout, and that kind of shaped how I care about people. I mean, those are with the whole, and we can speak about this, I feel like everything is connected. So I think Valiant Thor, the story of Valiant Thor, you if you it actually is deeply tied into this guy who was a ufologist who was religious. He was very religion away. The actual, the the monotheistic religion part of it, you could throw that away and still have a good story about treating people well. And I liked that, and I liked that part with all of it. The tenets of the Boy Scout. What are they? Trustworthy, kind, loyal, helpful, clean, courteous, brave, thrifty, all that stuff. That all resonated with me. And I tried to just be a good dude, but I had people along the way who, my dad liked good music. I guess my mom liked pretty good music too. And I took a kind of a soul from my mom and, acid rock or whatever from my dad, and put them all together, and art, and, decided to go to college, met some dudes, made a band, and that's how it kind of came. But a couple of the heavy mentors, said, and this is over 20 years ago now. So, it stuck with me. Was one of the things that one of my mentors, who's passed on now, Paul Hartley, he said, just remember to just go out and make beautiful things. And I said, well, that won't be any different than what I've been trying to do the whole time. So my whole life's been shaped around sort of those tenets, like treating people nice, making people laugh, trying to make beautiful things, and, doing good with it, helping people who are hating it, whether it's taking money that I raised up out to people in, for the pipeline, the No Dapple pipeline, like out in North Dakota, or, trying to get people to donate their kidneys, or, whatever. Like, I think not only being a positive person, but trying to help in positive ways is a good way to live life. And those are the kinds of things that shaped me.
Well, that's amazing, and thank you for sharing that. I know a lot of people don't always reflect very much on those things, and when asked, it can bring a whole spring of things back. But it's funny you say that when you're up on stage and you say "ow" and people start laughing. The experience of having the laughter trigger you, and that's very much like the performer archetype, the guy who wants to make others happy through whatever they find that can do that. And when that happened, and you kind of found your way into this music thing, was that very much still ingrained in you, that wanting to be a performer, wanting to be on stage, wanting people to find a happiness, or some sort of energy through your art and through your music? Do you still do that with your restaurant stuff?
Sure. Well, I mean, I guess I desperately wanted to be in a band. I wanted to, but I didn't know how to play any music. I spent all my time, and the only music stuff I did in school was chorus class, just because, I just didn't learn instruments. I don't know if I feel like it's a cop out to say that I'm left-handed and my brain's wired a different way, because there's plenty of good left-handed musicians. But I think I just focused my mind on making art, like, with instruments in my hand, like drawing or whatever. Like, I spent my time trying to hone that, or writing poems. And so I was never in um bands in high school or whatever. And I started writing poetry, and I started doing spoken word in high school. And I did it all the way up through my first year of college. And when I would do that, I had a bunch of buddies in the art school, and in classes, and in the dorms that would come, and we'd go down and read poetry, and I would enter contests, and I did that. And then a couple of the guys asked me if I would be in their band, because they thought that was a good approach. It was definitely like, you know, my my early approach was like a Jim Morrison type spoken word approach, and that helped. That lent itself to songwriting a lot, I think. And so, my best friend, art partner forever, it goes by Wolf Knight, or the Night Wolf, but it's at Wolf Knight. He's still out there making paintings. Lives in Wilmington, North Carolina, and um, he was Doctor Professor Nightwolf Strangeys in the band, the longtime bass player. He asked me to be in our first band, Lo-Fi Conspiracy, and we that's how it was. I was never like a I still do, yeah, I still do that, but I guess, at first I didn't my thing was there was it was really punk DIY aesthetic. It started in a skate park in Greenville in 1997 or 1998. There was a scene in the skate surrounding the skate park, um, and the bands would all go play down there, and they were all punks, but they seemed to be a lot of them seemed to be mean. And so when we played, there was like some bands there was this band Black Box, and they would always bands would open for them, and they would kind of razz the openers, or they would kind of be mean to them to see if they could take it, I guess. Or that's the way I took it. They were just kind of busting our balls to see if we, you know, had what it took in their eyes, I guess. And they were like, "You're not punk." And I was like, "Well, I never fucking said I was punk. I think punks are kind of dicks." So I was like, I jokingly said, "We're genre killers because we're not anything. We just play what we play." And I remember saying stuff like that. Sounds like a very art school kid thing to say. Like, we're genre killers. But yeah, we just did what we did. And I think that, you know, it all culminated into this plan, to this was 4 or 5 years before 2012. Like, we got signed in 2004, so we had like quite a few years of what I call the MySpace years to build up this. We had this plan. We called it Bang for World Peace, and I'm not meaning it in a sexual way. I meant like head bang for world peace.
Right.
Like, we wanted to bang for world peace. And how you had like your top followers on MySpace back in the day. We had fan clubs in each city, sort of based on like that band Turbo Negro from Norway had the Turbo Jugend, which is the Turbo Youth or whatever, and they had their not gangs but just youth groups of kids that were like hang out at rec centers and whatever. They would all wear their like jackets and stuff. So we had the thoRRs, and there was like, we'd tour around and around and around and around the country, and like playing over and over and over these cities. And they would all start wearing their colors or whatever, their cut off jean jackets. And there was like the Dayton thoRRs, and everywhere had their little thoRRs. So we would put all of them, and we'd say, "Look, you put a B there, and you put the A, and you put and we spelled out." So instead of like just all these people down in the corner where it had the followers, it actually spelled out Bang for World Peace 2012. And we obviously it didn't work. But the plan was to get everybody at the same time, not just by time zone, but everybody at one time, to lay down their guns if they were at war, or lay down their pencils or whatever they were doing, lay it down and just stop doing everything. And, you know, like, listen to your favorite song, or like something like that was the plan. Like, listen to whatever your favorite song is, so that we know that everybody in the whole world at the same time is listening to music instead of like fighting, just for a minute. And if you decide in a minute, after a minute or two, that you're over that song and you want to go back to fighting, then go for it. But we thought that maybe if everybody could do that, then we would we would have succeeded in um
That's amazing premise, though. Honestly, it's a very worthy cause to
I want to
get
make a
people to
comment to
focus on.
Earl Fields. I do love punk rock. I'm not shitting on punk rock. I was just being an asshole back to that guy who was being an asshole to me. Like, I love all kinds of all kinds of music, basically. I think my dad said it best, and I thought this was a very, because he didn't like a lot of kinds of music, but he did say there's only two kinds: good music and bad music. So across the board, he could find things that he liked of every kind of music, which I thought's pretty good open mind to have about tunes.
Yeah, I'm built the same way. There's most genres I can have some that I like. Bluegrass was off limits unless it was someone I knew who played, because I enjoy the creative art of people I know making beautiful things like music. Until Billy Strings came along, and then I was like, okay, this guy's amazing. So I can go a little bit. Actually, one of the things you spoke about the genre killing, and the first thing I exposed myself to you, I had heard about you from Kalina before. She had shared that she knew you and that you had developed a band and that became famous, and so I knew about you before that. But when I got to your Facebook page, when we started looking at your show and stuff, most of your posts are for friends only, and because we weren't friends, the last post you had that was public was a Ween concert. And I was like, holy shit, he knows Ween. That's amazing. He knows about Ween because Ween has been my favorite band since like 1994. And that's like one of the main things I listen to all the time. So and I consider them like a genre killer because you know how you can listen to their old records, maybe if you're familiar with their old stuff. And
Oh yeah,
it doesn't sound anything. You could play a whole album and not know it's the same artist who's making it. So
sure,
w-
sure.
tell me about Ween. Tell me about your experience with Ween. And this is purely selfish because
Oh,
I
well,
finally
no,
found
no, I'm
myself
with
a
you.
Ween guy.
No, I'm with you. So back. I mean, just for this will help also describe how I became who I am. If and I appreciate anybody for caring because I think a lot of times people at this point don't give a shit about stuff like this, but they go, "Oh wow, great, cool." But I mean, I think this it makes me feel good that somebody cares enough to ask because it's important stuff to me. But the reason I am why the way I am, I feel like a little bit of my mom is in me. I'm not a hoarder. I'm definitely a collector, and I think that's all in the organization. But I I didn't. I obviously still collect comic books, but from like 7 on, I collected comics, and then but about 14, I stopped collecting. I stopped spending all my money that I would like, mow grass or whatever, help my dad wash cars. I stopped spending all the money on comics and spent half on comics and half on tapes because my dad was like he had records and stuff, and we would use his records and we'd make mixtapes and stuff. And so, I love tapes. I got like obviously like 90 91 was right when grunge came around, and so I was big into it. I got into Columbia House and BMG. You could get 12 tapes for a penny, and then pay for two more, and so you got 15 tapes for like 2.99 or something like that for and I, like I still basically have every single one of them. And I think probably in that first 12 was Ween Pure Guava. I know
Oh,
Primus Sailing the Seas of Cheese was in there. Maybe
oh,
Helmet in the meantime. There's a lot of good stuff. Like basically all classics, all 100% classics. I could ramble them off, but it doesn't matter. But Pure Guava started, and I loved, like my thing about it is I worked in college, like not only, jokingly with my little bio I gave you as all the things that I do right now. Those are all jobs that I currently actually have all at the same time right now. Um, but I've done a lot of stuff. I was a sixth grade teacher. I worked in a record store. I was a college radio DJ from '98 to 2003. Um, I've always never rested and done a lot of different things at the same time. And so but here's the thing. I think my dad would always be like, you gotta fucking pick one thing and just do it. And I was like, no, man, like I think you can do everything. But he was right about one thing. You can't do a lot of things well, like unless you take time to do, because it takes a long time to get good at one thing. I mean, I can't be really great artist and a really great guitarist and a really great surfer and all these things because being a surfer, I would have to live at the beach to become a really great surfer. You know what I mean? I mean, some people are born
yeah.
with inherent talent. You know what I mean? But it helps to be born. There's things that help. I've always done a lot of different shit. But my knowledge of like you asked me about pretty much anything comic book related or anything music related. I have thousands of records and thousands of CDs and thousands of tapes because that's just some people whenever they I think I developed the habit in college. Like all my buddies worked at the record store, and I would just go down there. And I also worked at college radio, so I'd get tons of records for free. but I would go down there whenever if I was bummed, I would go down to the record store and I'd flip through the records and it'd make me happy. You know what I mean? Like, and so my knowledge of, and it's true idiot savant stuff. It's not something that is going to save the world. It's all just pure, like, it's all pure selfish, like, nerd shit, basically. But I do love Ween. My wife even loves Ween.
Oh,
She
God bless her.
she lived in DC and got to see them quite a few times, and so we went to see them no, not this past year, but the year before. 2 shows in Philly, two nights. We decided to stay for both, and they played like 63 songs over the course of 2 nights. It's like over 30 songs per set, and I was like, holy shit, man, that is not only like, I mean, I don't know, like back in the day, getting all fucked up and and being completely stoned, like having to remember the lyrics for 12 songs seemed like a a feat. So them knowing like that, they're just true professionals, and also great musicians. All their side projects. I've seen Aaron Freeman band. I've seen,
Oh, yeah.
all their stuff is great. So they're really good. And not just funny, they do serious too. They can do any style. They also work with crazy great musicians even since the beginning. Andrew Weiss, one of the greatest bass players, also played with Rollins band. Great producer, turned into just an incredible producer, still to this day. Like, they're they're um they're cool. So sorry to nerd.
No,
I used
no.
to One thing I used to love about them, and I was sorry to keep. I don't mean to cut you off. I just remember reading on the tape in the of Pure Guava, in the insert, they said, bring us food to the shows. Like their shows used to be, you'd hear that they would have these big shows and they would start playing before they would open the doors, and then people would come in, everybody would bring like food, and then they would have a big, like, potluck for the whole thing. Obviously, that didn't happen forever because it wouldn't be feasible and everything. But they used to have big shows. People would bring potlucks to these big shows, and everybody would eat food, and then they would keep playing, and then they would make you leave. But they would be playing before you could go in, so you were like, "What did we miss?" And then they would make you leave before they would finish. And that was like part of their thing. They just did different wild stuff that I've never heard anybody else do.
No, I could talk with you about Ween forever. It's because it's one of my, like I said, my favorite band, hands down. I know almost all the lyrics to all the songs. I listen to them every day still, and I really love Ween. It's amazing that you said that too, because I saw a little trick of why they can remember the songs. I know that when Aaron comes on stage, he has the lyrics for the songs they have on the set list. But like you said, 63 songs in 2 nights. I've only got to see him live one time. It was 2010, Aragon Ballroom in Chicago, because it's only a couple hours down the road. They were really bad form that night because Aaron was still using drugs and getting high. And this is like 2 shows before the band broke up, when they left him on stage alone because he was so messed up and being such a dick to the audience. But so I saw them in the rare form. But yeah, if they ever come back around, me and Kalina are gonna go. Kalina loves them now. Both of my kids love Ween. Everyone who I forced to Ween down their throat eventually enjoys it so, to some level that I do. But I'm over the top with Ween. I really love them. Yeah, I could talk. So you never got a chance to bump into them or meet them in your music career, I imagine.
No, we never played together. They had kind of busted up for a little bit. I have, like, I know that we have good friends in common, up around. I'm friends with the guys in CKY. Jess Margera, the drummer, is one of my really good buddies, and he's friends with Mickey and them, and I know they go way back, and so we they're um, Moist Boys is what I was trying to think of. You're
Yeah.
Moist Boys fans? So, like,
Oh yeah.
they I've seen Moist Boys as well, and my thing is, I don't. I've met lots of celebrities or people that I think are I put up on a pedestal in my day, but I don't like to bother them unless somebody introduces me. So I just never have with him. I never have had that just never had that. I didn't put myself in that position. I do it. I definitely do it. I've been more inclined back, when I was younger, but more and more, I definitely don't like to bother people. But
Well, you know the other side of that. You've got a lot of fanboys running around too that I'm sure have approached you at inappropriate times and things of that nature too, I'm sure.
well, I mean, to be honest with you, it was so crazy to take off for like the pandemic and not play shows. So much so that I felt so because like not for nothing, we literally played. I played. There's not even. We played like 1,800 shows. We'd play like there were a lot of years where we played 250 shows a year, sometimes 300 up. There was 3 or 4 years in a row where we played over 300 shows. So we played every day, all the time. And when I slowed down and had to stop and had to, even living in a place, having an actual house, living here in Richmond, which has been 10 years now, um, that was the first thing. Like I'll actually have a place to like put to spread my stuff out. That was weird. But then even weirder is not being on the road to where you're going, nobody's gonna remember my songs anymore. Nobody's gonna remember anything we've ever done. Like, are we ever gonna play music again? Like, it was, it was. I don't know. I try to stay completely positive all the time. I don't let the dark creep in. Uh, but there were times where I was like, when somebody will come up shyly and be like, "Oh man, I fucking saw you when I was 12. My dad took me in and I high fived you, but you don't remember me." But I was like, God, I'm just glad you even like remember my music or have heard my music. Like I don't
Aw.
care. Like I never get. I would never do anything but be grateful that somebody experienced my art and it brought them some kind of joy.
Yeah, it's very rare with people who are well known and famous because I imagine too. It just depends on the type of people. I know, like a lot of people who are Ween fans are dicks. And just for some reason, their audience bases are jerks, right? I spent time on the forum and they're jerks, but maybe with your people they're great. And
Well, there's dickheads everywhere. There's dickheads
yeah,
everywhere for everything. There's dickheads that are fans of bands of my favorite bands. There's dickheads that come to my restaurants.
I
There's
bet.
dickheads. There's just the world is full of dickheads. I think there's way more dickheads in this world than not. you know.
Yeah, that's unfortunate that that's the case, but I feel the same sometimes, and it's nice with the community that I've been a part of now for 12 plus years. Fortunately, it is susceptible to narcissism and flights of fancy, but it's also really great people who really want good things for others and for themselves too. So I've been lucky that way with people who I've got to meet in this community. But music being mainstream, it's funny. Like my sister will say, "Yeah, my brother Rob is famous." I'm like, "No, no, no. I'm on a small corner of the internet that a lot of people have appreciated, but it's a very small niche community. When you get to a point where you're out in a wider audience with a spectrum of people, then that changes the dynamic wholeheartedly. I mean, then you get the best and the worst all in the same spot. And I've been fortunate enough only to have that exposure to mostly really good people. So I've been lucky in that way. And I do want to talk to you a little bit about your experience. I watched the interview where you talked in depth about your experience with your dad, and this is something that we both had an experience with. Our dads passed, and we were close to our dads and really loved our dads. But through your father's passing, you had give him a kidney, and had done that well before that time where he was. where he passed, and that made you passionate about like donors and people giving their own kidney or whatever they could to people who they love, or even strangers. Can you share a little bit about that? And are you still active with that?
Yeah, yeah. So that's cool that that's cool that you brought that up because that's something that's actually happening right now. Um, uh, my so let's see, April, May will be the 15-year anniversary of me giving my dad a kidney. Um, he lived for 5 years after that. He would have lived more, but he had a lot of complications with his with stuff. He was a really bad diabetic, and he would go in these diabetic comas. And when you're a kidney recipient or don't when you get a donation, you anything can put you in the hospital, getting food poisoning or whatever. He got food poisoning. He was put in the hospital. I'm going to give you the very short short version. He was put in the hospital, and they were going to keep him over the weekend to make sure his fluids got back. He was on the mend. I went to see him, drove to Charlotte, and then came back, got all the way back here. And this lady, this fill-in nurse, gave him a fentanyl patch for pain because he said he was in pain. And she put a fentanyl patch, and this is like, you know, almost 10 years ago, before fentanyl was like a big thing in the news, and nobody really knew what it was. But they put it on. She put it on his back, and for pain. And he went into a dive. He went to, like, his sugar got really low, and he couldn't bring himself out of it, and so it went really low, and he, like, went into a diabetic coma and flatlined. And they brought him back, but he wasn't back. He wasn't he wasn't there, and so he didn't make it. But I didn't know that if he hadn't have been under so long, they would have been able to redonate that kidney a second time. And I was like, oh my, I learned that. 5 years after I donated, I learned something. I was like, wow, I
Wow.
didn't know the human body, like, I didn't know you could do that. They totally could have used it, and but his body went septic is the word. So it went septic, so they weren't able to do it because the blood was like, um, like, whatever happens, I'm not sure exactly, but it wasn't able to redo it. However, um, I just recently had an order at my pizza restaurant for like 10 pizzas for a party for this place called Unos, and they're like a donation. um, they're organizers for people to donate. And I actually have a cousin who lives in Charlotte now who needs a kidney, and he's on my mom's side rather than my dad. And my dad had renal kidney failure because he had long-term pancreatitis caused his renal kidney failure. Um, but yeah, I'm actively. I just reconnected with them, and they asked me my story, and they were like, "Will you share it?" And I was like, "Yeah," because April's like this big donation, this big drive everywhere for their company, for their not company, it's a nonprofit that tries to find families. They basically do it. They're the ones who do the trade program with the National Kidney Foundation. So they go, hey, like, if we found somebody to give your cousin or your friend or your dad or whatever, your wife, a kidney, if you can help us find somebody in your family who will give this other family a kidney, like, would you be a donor, like, so you just basically sign people up. So what we're going to do is do a big raffle or whatever. I'm going to give them, like, whatever, I don't even know, like $100 worth of pizza, or how much ever. We haven't worked it all out yet, but I'm going to let somebody win a big gift certificate, and for whatever they want to donate. And the whole time, all month, we're going to sign people up to be donors. Because I always say, and this 100%, like, I would give another kidney away if I had another one to give away. It wasn't hard. It wasn't a hard thing to do. I'm fine now. I have to drink a lot. I have to remind myself to drink lots and lots of water. But that's it. Like, I I I gave him a kidney, and within 3.5 weeks, I flew to California to do a rehearsal show to see if I could actually do it, and then we flew to Sweden after like 2 more days. So literally 2 days,
Whoa.
2 days less than a month after giving my kidney, I played to 800 people in Sweden, and then the very next day we played Download Festival, which was at that point the biggest show we had ever played. So it
Oh,
was
wow.
it was like me proving to myself that I wasn't gonna, and to anybody, that I wasn't gonna let it slow me down. Like I was gonna be like, the doctor said that this was, as long as you try to get yourself healthy, you just do your thing, and like, um, like try to get in shape as good as you can. So I was running, I was doing that, and I have O negative blood. I wasn't even a match with my dad, but if you have like O negative blood, you're a universal donor. So
Yeah, you can give to anyone then.
right, and so that's what I did, and I always encourage people, like I said, like if anybody anywhere in the whole world has questions, because there's just there actually, the numbers, the lady told me that the last few years the numbers have gotten better. There's like, I have way outdated information, but like there was, let's say 15% of the people that need a kidney every year get one. And now it's more like 25 or 29%. So it's
Holy,
getting better, but you have to keep going, just because there's just not enough to go around, like, but you don't, there are, if people realize that, how, hey, you don't need it for you don't need but one kidney and you can kill it. Like I feel like I never stop. I hardly, like, well, I'm not gonna lie, like I use a sleep apnea machine now. I use a CPAP. I don't think that has anything to do with my kidneys or anything, but that just, I use that to, if I didn't use that, I wouldn't get enough good sleep. But I use that machine, and I get up every morning early, and I work every night late, and I rock and I roll, and it hasn't slowed me down at all for literally 15 years. I'm still running in place, sweating like a maniac, going crazy. And if you feel like it, I don't know, sorry to be on pedestal here, but if people feel like it would benefit someone in their life or whatever to do it, then if this reaches them, I think you should do it. And if you have questions, you can find me on anything. If it has to do with Valiant Thor or Valiant himself, I'm the one in charge of it. I will respond to you on whatever. I'm not a Gen Zer, so I don't do TikTok, but I'm on like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on at least those. That's all I can, basically all I can keep up with. But reach out, and I'll tell you anything you want to know about it. So
well, that's amazing. I know it's something you're passionate about, and the parallels that our fathers had was actually quite stunning too. When I heard that interview you shared, and you had a lot of emotion in your sharing too, and watching it, I was in tears because so many things were in sync with my own father, like him going into a coma for several days before he passed, and him getting better with his. He had kidney issues, and he was having a dialysis treatment. And during the dialysis treatment, he started getting better. And the doctor said, "Hey, when you first came to see me, we can get your kidney functions back up to that." And so we were all in high hopes, hey, this is getting better. Things are going well. And then boom, his heart gave out. So it was really very similar. And I can see why you're passionate about that too. And during that sharing of that, someone said, he has a pizza restaurant. So can you tell us a little bit about what drove you to pizza restaurant, and what drove you to wanting a restaurant in the first place? What kind of things in your life pushed you to that direction?
well, first of all, I didn't know about your father. I remember you briefly telling me a little bit, but I didn't know the whole part about the coma and everything. But yeah, I sat there for 11 days waiting and trying to think about what to do. And you get put in that position. My friend Matt Hearn, down in Carolina Beach, he calls it being the grim reaper of the family. Like you always got to be the one who puts the dog down or whatever, or like you got to make the hard decisions about death in the family, because some people just don't want to deal with it. And I
Yeah.
basically had to go settle the whole. I had to go deal with the whole. I basically had to make all the decisions about it. And it's a weird position to be in. And the crazy thing is, if you have two parents, nobody tells you that. Nobody even tells you. It's like all of a sudden there's this realization, like, oh shit, someday I have to do this again.
Yeah.
Someday I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to go through all this shit again. That's like the gnarliest realization of all that. But it does make you maybe not take some of the things for granted that you did before. So I mean that's the only blessing I can think of about the whole thing. But yeah, the
Yeah.
restaurants, to switch gears. I never thought I would. Number one, I never thought I would live in Richmond, Virginia. Like Richmond was kind of just a piss stop on the road, on the highway to me forever. It was kind of like we played a few shows here, but it was really gnarly. Like dudes trying to get into our van. It was kind of gnarly back in the day. But
Yeah, I remember Richmond in the late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah.
yeah, it was like that. But so I kind of was living in Raleigh, and my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now, was living in DC, and then she quit her job and went to live in New Orleans, where she did a thing where being literally living the life that I led. I have friends in every single city that you can name, like any city you can name from any state you could name. I've been there and I've played it multiple times. So I have a really sick network of buddies all over the country. And so she was like, I want to find a new place to live. And I was like, okay, where do you want to go? And so she made a little road map for herself. And she's like, I'm going to spend 2 weeks in each of these places in these cities. Give me people to, tell me where to live, rent a room, whatever. And I think maybe she was even doing like a month at a time for a little bit. And then it got down to 2 weeks. And then it got down to 3 or 4 days. And then by the time she got to Seattle, um, she started in like New Orleans, I think. She started down maybe in Florida, and then New Orleans went all the way through Texas and Florida and all up the West Coast. And by the time she got to Seattle, I had like a 2 week break, and she was like, will you ride with me back? I'm gonna go back and get my stuff, and I think I'm gonna move to New Orleans. So we took a road trip on my 2 weeks off from Seattle to Kansas City, and then I had to fly out to Europe. But that road trip, we got back together, and we had kind of had to break, and then we got back together and decided we were going to figure out what we were going to do. And we've been together since like '99. So I can't remember when that was. My brain's kind of fried with dates and stuff, but I know it did happen. But anyway, at this point, she was going to move to New Orleans. She did for like a year, but then I was like, I don't want to live in New Orleans. It's like a 1986 episode of Cops come to life all the time, which I can handle, when I visit, and I love the food and I love the city, but I don't want to live there. So she's like, will you pick a place? And I was like, Asheville. And she's like, no jobs. And we basically would go back and forth. And she said Baltimore, and I said no. And she said, I said Raleigh, and she said no. And I said, so basically we were like, well, let's try Richmond, because we got a couple good buddies here. And we came here because I was supposed to play the Guarbecue, which is a big festival that the band Guar used to put on before,
Oh,
when
I
Dave was
love
still
Guar.
still alive. Yeah, they're all good buddies now. And we played that festival, and I was like, let's hang here for a weekend. And we started looking for places. And that night we went to the river, and I kind of fell in love with the place. And we saw Parliament also play that weekend. And so we just kind of laid on our friend's floor for like, I don't know, a weekend or two, and went to the library every day trying to find a place, and found a place, and gave it a shot, and I fell in love with it. I still was touring for the first 5 years that I lived here, and then we took a little break in 17 because guys started having babies and stuff like that. And no, we took a break in 18. I'm sorry. We took a break in 2018, and then we were starting up again in 19, and then the pandemic happened. So that's kind of why my break. I'd never had this break, and we had it, and I was like, fuck it, whatever. I started looking. In 17, we were on tour, and the Warp Tour. We were on the Warp Tour, and the Warp Tour canceled the show in Wilmington. But I got buddies who own a bar down there, so we threw a show, and my business partner asked me, he's like, hey, I'm moving up there with my girlfriend. Do you want to, I heard you wanted to have a bar. And I was like, someday, like I pictured myself as a bald, gray haired old man, gray long beard, and, like behind the bar flipping some, like serving beers with Melissa, making food in there, in a little small bar. But he's like, let's do this. And so I came back around, and all that happened. And I used to also, for like 3 years when I wouldn't be on tour, I drove a cab. And while I was on that Warp Tour, one of my buddies got shot in the back of the head driving a cab.
Oh my
And I was
God.
like, I was like, shit, man, I don't think I want to die in a cab. So I was like, I think I'm going to find something else new. So we started looking for a place to open a restaurant, and I had a couple partners. It's only one, and me and him now. Had two at first, but basically me and him. Then we opened this one, and it we opened this place called Cobra Cabana. And it was just a burger and a chicken sandwich, cheap beers, and a vegan option. And as we expanded, we made vegan versions of everything because we just knew that that's the kind of city we live in, and we knew we would thrive if we offered cheap beer, a great place, and it was called Cobra Cabana not because of snakes, but because of the bad guy from GI Joe. We were like, we want a place where the bad guys from GI Joe would hang out because they all look like
Nice.
punk. They all look like punk rockers. All the dudes at Zartan and all those guys. So we were like, we want all the dudes that look like bad guys from GI Joe to come hang out here. And that was the joke. That was we didn't really tell anybody that, but that's where the name came from. And then like 2 years after that, that was this is our 5th year, so that was like over little over 4 years ago. And then during the pandemic, or like right before the pandemic, we bought this other place, and this building, and this dude wanted there's a failing business, and we took it over and redid everything inside, and each place basically, to me, making a restaurant is like making art in a way too. It's like all the different things that you do. Like, well, it's like a piece of all the places that you've been that you liked. Me, this is they're completely different places. They're, aesthetically, but they have similar themes in that we want to make it affordable, but we want it to have this a certain vibe. And Hot for Pizza is a Van Halen themed pizza parlor that I own, and I had to open it during the pandemic. So literally, like with the pandemic, we thrived. A lot of places closed up. We thrived because I immediately fired all the bartenders and rehired them on the spot as drivers and delivery drivers. So we kept delivering, and then we opened the pizza place within like a month, and we could only deliver. Nobody could come in and eat. So we were open for like a whole year before we could even let people eat inside. And
Oh, wow.
we kind of built up our reputation, and it didn't really take off yet. And then we could serve people, and it didn't really take off until, pretty recently. But in November, we won best pizza in the city of Richmond, Virginia in November, and Cobra won the third best burger and the number one dive bar in the city. So actually,
Holy shit.
we are killing it. We're killing it. But it also, like I said, I don't have any time at all to do anything.
Yeah, that's the flip side of success in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Can I say something real quick? I usually, when I do my show, I always pay attention to the comments, but there's so many going on that I don't want to miss any of you guys' stuff. Do these stay on here when it's posted?
They do. It'll be on the YouTube and on both Facebooks. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. If there's questions in there, I'll try to answer them later. And I appreciate all the stuff. I saw somebody saying something about Rush, and I was like, that's another one, like bands like Ween and Rush, like all these bands that my friends say that girls don't like or whatever. Somehow I lucked out and have a wife who loves Rush, and I have like we got into Steely Dan. There's all these guy bands that I feel like a lot of my friends' girlfriends or wives they're not really interested in, but Melissa ends up digging them, and so
That's why she's your wife.
I feel lucky. I feel lucky.
When you said you knew Guar and you're friends with him, my head dropped. Because as soon as you said, hey, I'm on the stage at my church and I got electrocuted, said, ow, and they laughed and I felt good. The song "The Performer" came in my mind
Yeah.
from Guar.
Yeah.
The
Well, so
performer archetype.
yeah, I mean, like, I'm friends with all of the guys, to three of the longtime original members. And, I was friends with Dave before he passed. He's literally the reason, he's the one who told me I should move here. He literally was the one who was like,
Really?
he goes, well, he's like, you played here now, and he's like, now this is it. I guess you got to move here. And so, but Mike Dirks and Mike Bishop and Brad, they're all, we toured that whole summer with them in 17, and I made some. Mike Dirks gave me it's like a lot of every time I've ever moved to a town, I remember the first person who gave me a job. Like there when I was about to leave Greenville, North Carolina, to move to Chapel Hill, before I got a job as a sixth grade teacher or even a substitute teacher. They were this dude Johnny from that band Leadfoot was like, come to 506 and knock on the door. I'll be there and I'll give you a job. And so I did, and he did. And Dirk's sister owned a bar called Avalon. When I moved to Richmond, and I went there, and they're like, "You want a job?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so I became a dishwasher. There's my first job in Richmond. Um,
That's
so
crazy.
so yeah, I've like that's why with my restaurants, I like we have there's tons of people that are in bands that work, and we're really flexible. If they go on tour, we find people to cover them, and when they come back, they gotta have a job, because that's what I always found was a really hard thing to do. Is at some point we just gave up, and just gave up all our apartments and jobs, and just left and made this our job. But that's a real hard thing to do. But I want to support people as on their, if somebody's like, I support them as they do it, and then if they go, hey, I'm going. People are so timid about some people aren't, but some people are timid about their gigs, and they go, like, I don't want to bum you out, but I think I'm going to go get another job, like doing. I'm like, man, I only wish people the best. I wish people
Right.
to better themselves. If you're saying you're going to go do the thing that you're going to go do, I still have the yellow paper, the slip where I quit my job as a sixth grade teacher, and I had to explain what was the reason. And I was like, I'm going to do the thing that I always wanted to do for the rest of my life. See you later.
Yeah.
I'm going to rock.
You can't be mad at someone for either making more money or wanting to have the job of their life, the job of their excitement. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry,
I
I feel
mean,
like
you
I'm rambling.
no, you're hitting on the money. I saw someone ask a question too about if you do country rock, if you like that, or maybe
I
if you
I
have
don't
played it.
perform it, but I'm well. So here's another thing. Um, First of all, I love country rock. I love like California country rock. Like if you're talking, you know, before like pre-Eagles, I would say more like the Birds, or like I love um uh, my brain just fried, like Graham Parsons. Like I love all his stuff, like Submarine Band, and you know I all those California country rock bands. I really dig them. Um, but I never performed in a band like that, except for with my friends who, um, in college, we were in this like four of the bands that I was in college with all got signed, and we're all different kinds of music. So my band Lo-Fi Conspiracy turned to Valiant Thor and got signed for like rock and roll. This band Art Lord was this band The Capulets got signed to Merge Records in Chapel Hill as oh shit, I feel like a jerk by not my brain just fried. I'll think of it in a second. But Art Lord and the Self Portraits became Future Islands. People love and know Future Islands, but the biggest one out of all of us was this band called Nemo. They were from like Charlotte, these two brothers, and they made a band called the Nemo Backdoor Project. They played my 20th birthday, and I'm 44, just turned 44 last week. So my 20th birthday party they played, and that was their third show, and by the fifth show they changed their name to the Avett Brothers, and I've been singing with them for all that time. Like and they're like a huge band. Like moms know them, not just young people know them. That to me, they got like a Beach Boys, or like a I don't want to say the Beach Boys, like a Weezer Beach Boys vibe, but girls love them, like ladies love them, like not young ladies, but like people love them. They played on the Grammys, like they're, and I sing with them as Father Time every New Year's Eve. And sometimes I sing their songs. They let me pick out whatever kind of song. They let me pick out covers and stuff. But they started out as bluegrass, but they do sort of a country rock. They have had hits that would be called contemporary country, I bet, you know.
That's
So
amazing.
they're like a really big band, but they've been really good to me. We've stayed friends. Like Scott Avett and I had painting class together in college. And Tyler Wolf, we all had painting studio together. and that's how we became. A lot of the musicians that I know that I'm friends with, what we talk about is art. It's weird. And this isn't what would people would probably call it a humble brag, but what my favorite. So working in a record store, you get these different things where you go, okay, these lists, like your favorite top 10 records, your favorite band, all that stuff. My favorite band is Devo, but my top 10 records is not even a Devo record in it. But my favorite record of all time, I can say, is Frank Black second second solo record, Teenager of the Year. Frank Black was the singer of the Pixies. His name, he went by Black Francis, but anyway, Frank Black. I said that on Twitter, and he started following me years ago. And when Twitter first came out, and I ended up, he invited me to a show, and I became kind of friends with him, and so whenever he comes to town, we hang out and talk about painting. We don't talk about music, we talk about painting. And I always think that's weird. When I hang with Scott, we talk about painting. I hang with Tyler, we talk about painting. So a lot of my musician friends that I hang out with are painters, and I think that maybe that's why we're friends, because we have that in common with each other.
That makes sense. It's something, people who have something that they do for a living, that's and I'm not saying this is the fact with you and your friends, but a lot of people start looking at that as their job. So, I don't want to talk about work when I'm not working. I want to talk about something else, but having a passion that's painting and art, that makes sense, and especially if all of you guys are into that same thing and same kind of energy, that's amazing. And as you you're getting ready to go back on the road again, aren't you?
I don't have any plans to right now. I'm working on a solo record right now that I've been working on for a while, but I've been releasing tracks of it all month. I've released six, but there's a seventh one. Actually, the seventh one debuted on YouTube this morning, but I don't announce them until it's on everything. Like Spotify usually takes 5 or 6 days. So in 2 or 3 days, I'll announce it. But I got a Neil Diamond cover that just came out, Forever in Blue Jeans. It's actually here on YouTube if you guys want to listen to it after the show or something. Um, but yeah, I did two suicide covers. It's completely genre killing. It's all over the board. I do the Neil Young song is almost like a dance track. Then I put out a more traditional MC5 cover and a more traditional Rocky Erickson cover, and then I did a Neil Young cover that's pretty traditional as well. But I have a bunch I have at least 12 that are, so about five more that'll come out, and then eventually, like when I get them all up here digitally into the world, I'll try to put out it as an actual album. It's these days it's so different because we just went out last year. We went to Europe, and we did 2 US tours, like a down south thing and out to Texas and back thing, and we did Europe in July last year. But the touring industry is very different, and I knew it was gonna be. And like doing it the way we've always done it, you can still do that because we don't ask for very much. But there's bands who I won't name, who I'm friends with, who are like a step above us or two steps above us, that are gonna have to, and I know that they're gonna have to take a step back on what they're making. Because I mean, like, you can look at it in the restaurant industry. Like, you everything that you everything's more expensive than it was a few years ago. Food, like, obviously, like, no, like, you can just look at your grocery, like when you go get groceries, like eggs are so much more. Think about that. Think about, like, every single thing that I use in both of my restaurants costs some double, sometimes four times as much. Like a case of napkins was 20. I think the most I ever paid the first 3 years we were a business was like $27. Now it's $49 to $60 for a case of napkins. And
Holy
that's
God.
that's no bullshit. I'm always looking for, like, okay, one ply. Can we get them for 38? All right, sick. $38 for napkins is a deal now, which is for a case when you're like, I don't want to, like, I mean, like but that's one item. I'm talking about everything's like that. And I'm talking about everything
Oh,
across the board for any businesses, especially like touring. You're talking about gas, you're talking about riders for food, you're talking about what they get, what they pay, who can, and like people do come out to shows again now. Um, but it's just the way everything costs and the pay for all of it is a lot different. So, the expectation of what you're going to make, like I don't make that much on what food we sell and what alcohol we sell. So they're not going to make that much on the tickets they sell, because every person that works at that club, like, that has to get paid, the club takes a bigger cut. So either you got to raise up your prices, and so that means less people come out, less people can afford it. You know what I mean? So it always, I don't know. I feel like I sound like an insane person talking about that, or maybe it's something people don't care about, but that's the reality I have to live because of all the different things you do.
no, it's affecting us all. We've actually talked about on a couple of shows of how the shifting energy with the prices and everything has affected a lot of people. I sell services and have been creating courses and stuff. And lucky for me, it's all digitally done. If I had to buy anything, even the website prices have gone up. The places where you send out emails, the websites where you do course, that all that's gone up. And I'm like, how can that be affected with a digital service when there's nothing physical being exchanged? Because I always assume gas price goes up, everything else goes up. But even in the digital world, it's really been rough. But we're getting close to the time where we do the lightning round, which is where I ask you 5 or 6 real fast questions about personal things that are not real personal, just like, example, your favorite color, things like that, to get people to know you as a person better if they're tuning in because they know you from one of your various multiple things that you've done. But before I do that, we've got like 5 minutes or so. Um, can you tell us a little bit about your humanitarian work that you do, the things that brought you to that, and what you're doing now with that?
I mean, like, I don't have, I guess with like just charitable stuff that we do, the band would always pick different things because people would ask us. You would, like it would be the first thing that when it became like a kidney thing, that was like huge for me. But we did lots of things. We did breast cancer. We did all kinds of different awareness. Like I had a cousin die last year from ovarian cancer. I had a friend's wife die last month from ovarian cancer. I had another friend's wife die right after Thanksgiving, and I have another buddy who's going through chemotherapy like right now in Atlanta. It's just a wild amount of really close friends who are in the middle of their journey and their fight right now. And it's a so I do different things, and I know that not charitable is not necessarily with humanitarian, but I think that all the and I'm sorry, I don't want to make I want to give short, quick answers if I can, but because I know this is supposed to be lightning, but but like when I think of a thing like the pipeline thing, sometimes something will just hit you. I was in Europe when all that was going down, and I was like, man, if I was there, I would go do something about it. And if it's going on when I get back home, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to use my platform that I have, and I'm going to see if I can get people to share it and get people to give some money to the people who like get let I was like, I don't want to just donate money online and press a button and not know where that goes. I want to drive there and put that in the hands of like the lawyer who's like the people were getting arrested, they didn't have anybody there who was thinking about their kids. I was in the kitchen of it was like, we're talking about a tent kitchen that was making food for all the people that were there that were like trying to not get their land encroached on. And these little kids would just roll in there, and it was like snow on the ground, and they had like shorts, socks, no shoes, wet socks, like clothes laying all around covered in snow, but nobody to take care of them because their parents had been locked up. And so I was like, all right, I know where I'm giving the money. I didn't know until I
Oh
got there to
man.
see it where you could give the money. So I was like, I'm giving it to the people who are the legal people getting the parents out of jail, so they could for childcare and stuff like that. So I think being a humanitarian, it's all just this might sound crazy, and I might have talked about it on my show before. It's something I go back to a lot, but there was an episode of the that I don't know if I don't know how if people remember the Jeffersons. There was a show, the Jeffersons.
Oh yeah.
There's an episode I watched. I was a TV kid, I guess, so I watched lots of like all the Sanford and Son, Good Times, Jefferson. I probably saw all of that, and to me, like seeing all of that, even though we were from like a primarily white part of the state, there was all these things that talked about the plight of African Americans in the '70s. That which I knew these were reruns, but they talked about racial challenges and racial cooperation and things like that on those shows. And so at 5 years old, there was only one guy in my class who was black. His name was Eddie Watkins. And I watched a show. I watched an episode of the Jeffersons, and it was an episode where there was this racist on the show, and he ended up needing a kidney. So this is important for two reasons. He needed a kidney, and George Jefferson was the only person around that could be the donor. And so
I remember that
the
one
son
too.
was being racist too. And then they walk him in at the end after he's given him the kidney, and they pull the curtain back and they show the man, and the man goes, "I would have rather died than have the kidney of a," and I can't remember if he said the N word. I feel like he really did say it. But he goes, "I would have never accepted it, or whatever." And the canned audience, instead of laughter, they just go, "Oh," like that, and they shut the curtain. And George Jefferson puts his head down and he starts to walk out, but the son runs over and he goes, "Thank you for saving my dad. I'll never be like him, though. You've taught me I'll never be a bigot." And I remember going to my dad and asking my dad what a bigot was. And so to me, you don't have to be, like I don't know. I have a hard time with like organized religion, hypocrisy and organized religion, but I don't think that you don't have to have religion at all to know how to be a good person, and to know that you don't have to believe. You can believe in all kinds of things, or you can believe in nothing, but still be a good person, and be like, well, there's definitely humans here. I see them, and I want them to live, and I want them to be happy. So I don't care beyond country. I don't have a nationalist bone in my body. I don't care about race. I don't care about creed. I care about people. I care about humans. I should have said that it took me a minute to get there, but I care about humans, all humans, no matter who they like to kiss, no matter, no matter where they come from, no matter where they're going. And I think that we all should. And I don't think it's hard. I think that's very easy. And it confounds me that people make it so hard, because I could see it as a 5-year old that you should treat everybody equally.
Well, it's hard to do the opposite, to make these reasons in your head why you hate this group of people for reasons that have never personally affected you. Just hearing some other shithead say it over and over again, which is absolutely true. And believe me, you didn't take too long on that. We're actually right on track for the lightning round, so you're perfect. I'm going to ask you some questions, and thank you for sharing that. Everyone in the audience resonates highly with that. I'm going to ask you some questions, simple questions, just to get to know you as a person better, not as an artist or as a restaurateur or many hats that you wear, but just as you. What is your favorite color?
Orange.
Really interesting, beautiful. Um, what is your favorite? Well, we already said that. Okay, so what is your favorite song?
Oof, that's incredibly difficult question.
I know.
Um, you know, that's putting me on the spot, because I mean, I have a deep love for music so hard that, and it's not for lack of being able to think of one. Like, I'm literally looking at thousands of records right now. I can't, in my mind, it's hard to whittle it down, because I think maybe the possibility is my I don't think I don't think that even my favorite song has to be on my favorite record or by my favorite artist. Sometimes like songs, I don't know. I'll have to come back to you with that one.
All
I'll
right,
say pass for a second.
we'll pass on
I'll
that
get it.
one.
I'll get back to it. I'll come back to it because I don't want to leave you hanging. Like if that could I want to push somebody into something that they I wouldn't
Well,
want to.
usually my question is, what is your favorite band and or song? But you said Devo is your favorite band, so
I'll
I
give you my
immediately
second favorite band. My second favorite
yeah.
band is a bit more obscure. Second favorite band is Love, and I think that says something too. But Love was started by Arthur Lee, the self-proclaimed first black hippie. Love never toured outside of California, so they never got as big. But Arthur Lee gave Jimi Hendrix his first uh, guitar work on one of his songs. He actually talked Jack Holzerman into signing the Doors. He had a whole, he had the ear of Elektra Records, but he thought, when they asked him like, you got to go on tour, he was like, why would I ever want to leave California? I got everything I need here. So if you look up Love, look up the Best of Love or Arthur Lee. He's one of my favorite musicians of all time.
I will have to look
A
into that. I've
beautiful,
never heard of them.
beautiful, beautiful soul.
I will definitely look into that because I'm a music guy and I've never heard of him or the band, so that's beautiful.
Love had I covered one of their songs with a friend of mine who's passed on now. Seven and Seven is probably their most famous song, and you could have called it punk, but it probably came out in like '63. Seven and then ampersand seven is the number seven and seven is. That's probably their most famous song by Love, but there's tons of them. They wrote "And More Again." They wrote "My Red Telephone." Anyway, check out Love.
I will definitely do that. What is your favorite food?
Oof. When I was young, I probably would have said pizza.
Oh yeah,
Maybe even 3 years ago, I would have said pizza. But I don't have to
not
say no. I still love pizza, but it's not my favorite. I say maybe my favorite. I went vegan for health reasons for a few years, and the only thing that they didn't make vegan that I craved was shrimp. I love shrimp, but I don't. I don't eat it a whole lot anymore. I think, man, maybe I love sushi now. It changes. My taste change. I think when you're a lot of people don't know this, but I had some girl tell me maybe when I was at some point down the road that when you're 25, your taste buds change. So all the things that you don't like that you never liked when you're young, you should try again. And so I did, and it turns out she was right. And all those things I thought I didn't like, I love. I love I like actually everything. I'll tell you the one thing that I don't like. There's almost only one food that I don't really like, and that's celery. And not because I like it cooked in food. I'll eat it cooked in stuff, but it has a weird taste to me that some people describe when they're eating cilantro. But I love cilantro. My wife says it. She describes it when she's eating green peppers. She won't eat peppers, but uh, for me, it's celery. And they go, "Oh, try it with peanut butter and raisins, like ants on a log." And I go, "Yeah, but you know what the log is made out of? Celery."
that's great. Yeah, and you're right too. The taste buds changing around that time
Oh,
because
Naria might be right. I think shrimp and grits might be like because okay, so I like old man foods now. I love elote. I love elote. Like I love corn on the cob for some reason. Corn on the cob is like one of the most fantastic things. Grits, like things like that I feel like would have made my grandfather happy. Like just a fucking just a fucking bowl of grits. And you're talking cheese grits? Holy shit. Like grits, bananas, oatmeal. Um, I love old man food now.
you've gone over the 40 threshold, so you got a level. That's wonderful. And Kalina, when I met her, she exposed me to a whole myriad of foods I thought I hated from childhood too, and I ended up like I eat spinach all the time now, and I could never eat that. So I feel you on that one.
I ate elote today. No bullshit. I had elote today.
That's amazing. Um, Next question is going to be in all of nature, when you look around, all the places you've been in the world, and you're a well-traveled man, what is your favorite place for the feeling of the nature that you're in and the beauty of it? What's your favorite place?
Ooh, I got 2 of them, and there's some runners up beyond that, but these are different vibes, but for the nature, the 2 most best places where I really felt like I didn't ever wanna leave there because of the way my surroundings made me feel. In America, it's Yellowstone. All around Yellowstone, that trip that I was talking about from Seattle to Kansas City, we only took back roads. I didn't do any highways. So we went and we did, we did like the Badlands, and we did all the Dakotas. I had, you know, just extensive back roads, and we did Yellowstone. And Yellowstone has just so much wildlife, just buffaloes and just stuff out in that you wouldn't see just out in anywhere around where I'm out at. Um, that's the one, and then the second one is Iceland. And
Oh my
we did
gosh.
Iceland, and we did the ring road, and we basically just rented a car and slept in the car. We didn't even get anywhere to stay. We just got the hotel, we flew in from her sisters in England, and we flew into to the airport, and we rented a car, and we drove counterclockwise around the island, and we literally just drove. Uh, it's called Ring Road. It just goes all the way around. There's a big glacier in the middle, but you can see the whole thing, and like, you go and we basically chased waterfalls, which they say you're not supposed to do, but I always chase waterfalls.
Oh.
We chased waterfalls, and we went and found hot springs, and it's just, I literally felt like, um, everybody talked like Bjork, and I'm just in love with, I as a high schooler, just remembering just everybody being like Bjork. And I like it was like this I was like, "I love this place." There's not a whole lot of wild like animals there. There's like goats, cows, no bugs, which is awesome. There's some horses, lots of birds, but there's not a lot of the only reason I couldn't live there is because you think about, I don't know, maybe I'm just too materialistic, but I love, I'm such a like collector with records, and there's a finite amount of records and comics on that island. They don't just get a weekly
Yeah.
they don't get a weekly shipment. So I don't know, I don't know.
I'm
I feel
so
like,
jealous of you because I've always wanted, since I've been a child, that place has called to me on a soul level, not just like, oh, I'd like to see it. Like, if I don't go there before I die, I will have missed my life
oh,
desire.
you will. You can do it. You will do it.
Oh, yeah, we'll do it.
It's not even the crazy thing is it's not that expensive. If you start looking at it, man, we were looking. I was literally wanting to go to Puerto Rico for my birthday, and she started looking, and like tickets to Paris right now, and maybe it's just a certain time that you look at them, but tickets to Paris were only $500, and I was like, wow,
Whoa.
that's very inexpensive comparatively speaking. But
Oh yeah. We'll
yeah.
go there for sure. We're getting a little short on time. I got one more question for you, and then we're gonna go to sharing some things about how people can find you and stuff. But the last question for the lightning round: what is your favorite childhood memory?
Um, I don't know. That's tough. Probably got to be something to do with Christmas. I I love thinking about my family at Christmas because not a lot of them are around anymore, and family, they the family changes over the years. The ones you like die, and then you're stuck with the ones that you don't really even care if you see them anymore. And then maybe maybe everybody else is lucky and that doesn't happen. I'm lucky where a lot of my family that I like are gone, but
The good dude die young.
I'm married into a great family, and I'm happy with my wife's family. Like, so I'm lucky in that regard. But with my I remember just some memories of being young with both sides of the families being, and that's not a specific memory. That's just thinking back to just the feeling of what I liked. I liked it around the holidays being there. because that's something I won't ever have again, like that experience with all of them around. It is kind of different. I mean, it is kind of big in a way with a lot of new nephews and nieces. I have many, many nephews and nieces, great nephews. I have so many of them, and that's big in a different way. So I'm starting to appreciate that. But yeah, I don't have a specific one for you to wrap up so fast. So
No, that's beautiful. Actually, one of my favorite answers from a channeler friend of ours, Wendy Kennedy, was just the feeling of freedom, being able to jump on your bike and go. So that's a perfect answer. Christmas time was always one of my favorites too. Before we get to the part where we ask you how people can find you, what things you have going on, how to get a hold of your restaurant, things like that, I want to do two things. The first is announce to all of you guys that on the Matrix Minds at midnight tonight, in 30 minutes from right now, if you go to the Matrix Mind on Facebook, they have the show, The Beast System, and it's going to be an amazing night. And Matthew's got a lot of good things planned and an open line, so check that out. If you're not a part of the Matrix Minds, you guys should check it out because it's amazing. And they're the ones who lovingly help us by letting us put our show here every Wednesday. So go check that out. Thank you, Matthew, for all of your stuff. And to you, brother, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. I know you and Kalina have, you had a relationship in high school and got to know each other and lived in the same town, went to the same school. And I've heard things about you, but just getting to know you in the last few months has been a great pleasure. And when I listened to that interview with your dad, so many things were parallel and just so many good feelings about who you are as a person and your desire to help people and your desire to help people feel good and positive. It runs so deeply strongly with my own ethics and my own beliefs and my own desires in life. So you're a good person, and I want to thank you for sharing your light with others and sharing your heart with others and sharing your time with others, especially when time is such a value commodity in your life at this moment. And thank you for being you, brother. I really appreciate you coming on with us tonight.
well, I appreciate it. Thank you, Rob, and thank you for Kalina for sharing all the stuff. I we didn't talk about. I like being a part of this community now. It's something that it piqued my interest, and I like almost I didn't start it. I guess I got asked to do like I've tried to host a show for 3 or 4 times, and then I kinda took it into this realm without their talk. I was trying to do, like, an actual video show where we went around, like a travel show, but then when we weren't traveling and I was stuck, that's what brought us out there talk. So I'm kind of happy with it's where it's going and meeting people and learning about all the different various gifts that people have. And I'm glad you let me share. I know that I don't know my stuff might not be as interesting about it. It doesn't. It's not. I don't have any like my gifts are different, but I don't know if you normally talk about these kinds of things with people, but I do think that hopefully that some of the things can resonate the experiences or whatever. Um, because I feel like a lot of the people, Minga and everybody that has come on, they all share such wonderful things. So thanks for letting me be a part of it, and thank you guys. And if you ever, like I said, or if you want me to share the stuff, like I know we're kind of going over your time or whatever, but Tuesdays and Wednesday nights. I'm starting again, and I think I have a show on the 28th. If Sarah from New York is going to do it still, but I usually take about a month off after 3 months of doing it to book guests, and you guys are already helping me fill those in. But I'll probably take March off, but I'll do April and May. We'll start again on Tuesday and Wednesday nights at midnight Eastern time. Um, and like I said, if you want to check it out, Valiant Thor or Valiant himself is my music is on everything. It's on Spotify, YouTube, Pandora, Amazon, uh, iTunes, whatever that they call that now, Apple Music. It's on everything, even the ones that I don't know about. It's on. So I want somebody to listen to it. So check out the actually if you care if you're interested, check out the Valiant Himself ones and give me some feedback on it because that's all brand new and it's different. It's funny. Like I was thinking after not doing like spoken word for 20 years and being with we just had our 20-year anniversary of my band last year. So having that band behind me forever and such a long time, doing these songs with friends around the country is so different. Like, they're not my people that I count on, but I like collaborating with, I've always collaborated, but it's neat to do things, but to kind of produce it on your own and put it out there for the world. I, I sort of thrive off feedback on like knowing whether it's worth a shit or not. Because if it sucks, then maybe I should just keep on painting.
Well, no, I'm sure that there's always and this is the thing I found about the internet, there's always an audience for everything. And I haven't got a chance to listen to them yet. You told me where to find them, and I haven't had the time, but that's great. I want to also thank you for the donation. It means a lot. Thank you guys. I usually give these to Matt from the Matrix Mind because he is fully 100% owned, operated for cost. And without that, we wouldn't be on the platforms we are. So thank you for the donation. And what about like your pizza place? Where is that located? What's it called? How can people find
Yeah,
it?
Hot for Pizza is in Richmond, Virginia, and so is Cobra Cabana. The Cobra Cabana and Hot for Pizza are both in the Carver neighborhood by VCU in Richmond, Virginia. Just not necessarily downtown, but if you get off of 95 and you are hungry, we're right off the highway. And come see us.
And what about any of the other things that you wanted to share? Do you have anything coming up of interest? Any events? Any shows? Any paintings that you wanted to tell people? Anything that you want to share about how to get a hold of you or any of that? By all
No, I
means.
mean, no, I've been so busy. I'm mostly working on. I mean, if you come, Cobra Cabana is like a venue now too. Like we have a sold out show for the Cro-Mags on Saturday. Cro-Mags, Ringworm, No Moss, and Killing Pace are playing on yeah, you can get an 18 wheeler there. There's a big show. There's a bunch of shows coming up. That's all on Instagram. I mainly use Instagram to post stuff, and it shares to Twitter and Facebook. But if you ever come through Richmond, I got lots of stuff to do. We'll probably Valiant Thor will probably play sometime later in the year, but everybody's got such a lot of family stuff going on right now. So last year was our big year with 20th anniversary, and we were trying to work on a new record this year. But I think everybody's so varied and in different bands and stuff. They're all working on their stuff. So I'm just going to work on mine, and we'll get back together when we can.
Well, and we have all of your links in all of our platforms. Wherever you're hearing us from right now, you can go down to the description and find the links and check out all the different social medias, websites, and various places. So thank you again, brother, for coming tonight. I appreciate your time. I know I've kept you for almost 2 hours now with a tech check, and now it's been almost 2 hours. So
It's all
thank you
good.
for, I appreciate it. And yeah, if you haven't seen the Out There Talk show, guys, go check it out. It's amazing. We've had me and Kalina have both been on there. A lot of our friends in this community have been over there. And all together, it's a fun, amazing, honest chat. And it's a beautiful thing. So thank you for being a part of our network. Thank you for being on this show. And thank you for being you, brother.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks so very much.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you guys for listening. As you guys know, the Enlightenment Evolution is on the Enlightenment Evolution Network and is a part of the Matrix Mind Media and the Facebook page for Enlightenment Evolution Hour and the ET Whisperer, as well as being broadcast on various other places. You can catch us every Wednesday at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern. That is 7 Pacific. And we'll be here until either people quit watching, I get tired of it, or the sun blows up. And every day in between, just remember, guys, you are loved. And I love you. And thank you for being a part of this, guys. We will see you next week here on the Enlightenment Evolution Hour, 10 o'clock. And I believe Kelly Coffee will be with us. Psychic Kelly, amazing lady, interesting things that we're going to talk about. Check us out. We'll see you next week, guys. Love you, and see you then.